Hello and welcome to Hollywood at Home from Arizona Public Media. I'm Victoria Lucas. Tonight, we bring you an inspiring movie you may have missed in 2006. It's Akeelah and the Bee, the heartwarming, multiple award-winning story of an 11-year-old girl from a rough neighborhood who happens to have a gift for words. No, she's not an author, she's not an orator. She's a smart but aimless girl with a record of truancy who's coerced into entering a school spelling bee rather than serve time in detention. Much to her surprise and embarrassment in front of her classmates, she's a championship speller. The school principal encourages her to develop her talent and to pursue it to higher levels of regional, even national competition. He also suggests she work with a skilled tutor and introduces her to a visiting professor of English, played by Lawrence Fishburne. She's willing to try, but there are obstacles she must overcome, not least of which is her recently widowed mother, played by Angela Bassett, who forbids the project as a waste of time. The inspiration for tonight's story came to writer-director Doug Acheson purely by chance. He was watching a television show when he switched over to ESPN during a commercial break to check out the scores. But instead of SportsCenter, he later said, they were showing the Scripps National Spelling Bee live. And I became so fascinated by these kids and by the intensity of the competition that I forgot about my show. He noticed that most of the contestants seemed to come from privileged backgrounds. And as he said, it struck me that there was a story to tell about a child who had natural ability for spelling, but who didn't have those advantages. That's the kid I'd root for. Acheson had tutored disadvantaged kids at a youth center in South Central Los Angeles while attending film school at nearby USC. He believed some of them had potential for real success, even in areas they hadn't even thought of yet, but were held back by lack of belief in themselves. He also knew many of their parents and teachers, and he was aware of the many challenges they faced. Acheson believed he could create a real Akeelah, living in her real world, and then confront her with a what-if challenge that would force her to realize and harness her potential. The only problem was that once his screenplay was completed, Acheson found it hard to convince anyone in Hollywood to even read the script, much less produce it. So in 2000, he submitted his screenplay to the prestigious Nickel Fellowship, a writing competition sponsored by the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, the people who award the Oscars every year. Akeelah and the Bee was one of 4,500 scripts submitted that year, and it was chosen as one of the 5 winners. In the audience during the award presentations was veteran producer Sid Ganis, who later remembered thinking, oh, wow, that's just the kind of great story I want to tell. Acheson was happy to sign a deal with Ganis to get the picture made, but financing quickly became a struggle. Studios and indie financial backers simply didn't see the commercial potential in the film until, in 2002, a documentary titled Spellbound centered around the Scripps National Spelling Bee. It received multiple critics' awards and was nominated for an Oscar, and suddenly, spelling bees were hot, not only on ESPN, but at the box office. That doesn't mean that money started pouring in for Akeelah, but it did enable Ganis and Acheson to finally scrape together a tight budget and begin pre-production. First came casting. The filmmakers knew the movie would never work unless they found the perfect person to play the young Akeelah. They auditioned over 300 kid actors for the role in New York, Los Angeles, and Atlanta. 12-year-old Keke Palmer remembered feeling overwhelmed when she arrived at the audition, even though she already had several supporting role credits under her belt, saying, "There were girls in there I had seen on TV, and I was like, man, I might as well just walk out of here now because I'm just a nobody. But I did the lines the best I could, and I got callback after callback. It's like Akeelah, as she starts to get further in the spelling bee. She starts to realize, maybe I am good enough." Director Acheson recognized that Keke had something special, saying, "I wanted someone who instinctively understood the role." Keke had that. She was able to be very real, to be in the moment, not at all like a precocious child actor. To play the adults in the film, Acheson aimed almost ridiculously high. Angela Bassett and Lawrence Fishburne had both been nominated for Academy Awards for their previous collaboration in What's Love Got to Do with It, and they were eager to work together again. Producer Sid Ganis couldn't offer them their usual fee, but as he later said, "Ours was a small movie in terms of the budget, but big in terms of its heart. And guess what? It's not unusual to get major actors to be in a film like this." Fishburne dropped his acting fee, saying, "Oh my God, this is beautiful. Yes, I'll act in it. And if it helps that I produce it too, then okay." Angela Bassett also signed on as quickly, later explaining, "I just love the story. A little girl making against all odds. And I love the role of her mother and the journey that she has to take." The film was shot on location in South Los Angeles in only 31 days. For director Acheson, every day was a race against the clock because 12-year-old Keke was subject to California's strict child labor laws, meaning she was required to have 3 hours of school on location every day, plus 1 hour of recreation and an hour for lunch, which left only 5 hours per day to shoot her scenes. At the end of those 5 hours, no matter where they were in the day's filming, finished or not, Keke would be whisked off the set and sent home by the social worker. Acheson later commented, "There were plenty of times when we had one chance at her close-up before time ran out, and Keke, being the pro that she is, would always deliver. She saved us for sure." Besides needing to work quickly, it was also important for director Acheson to make the spelling bee sequences as authentic as possible. One of the young actors in the film, George Hornado, also served as an unofficial technical consultant, as he had been a real-life spelling bee finalist. George pointed out that many bee kids have quirky things they do to help them concentrate, like drawing the letters in the air as they spell, or twitching their feet, or turning in semicircles, which Acheson incorporated into the spelling bee scenes. You'll see that Akeelah develops her own unique trick to help her spell the words, which I will leave you to discover. So now, please sit back with or without your dictionary and enjoy the movie that critic Roger Ebert called one of the most life-affirming, inspiring, and entertaining films of the year. From Lionsgate Films, it's Akeelah and the Bee.